Hello, me again, Charlene Thompson, pipeline and process optimizer, sales operations leader. And in the last episode, we talked about what should you do if your Q4 was bad. And in this one, so if you want to listen to that, go back and check that out. But in this episode, we'll be talking about what should you be doing if your Q4 numbers were good. So let's say we hit all of our numbers or many of our numbers. People are getting bonuses this year. Things are looking good. First off, congratulations, because it takes a lot to make these things happen and it's worth acknowledging. And so actually, as a priority, I would urge you to, if you're the person that's managing sales, and chances are you are if you're listening to this or you're watching this, then I would urge you to, in your Q1 meeting or wherever the first company-wide meeting is to acknowledge that sales can't do it on their own. Because one of the things that people who aren't in sales tend to experience a lot is that when things are bad, then all of the other sister departments get blamed. But when things are good, then sales take all the credit. So I would very much urge you to recognize that you can't have happy customers if they are not receiving their services appropriately and to high quality. Many of them we wouldn't even know your company exists if marketing weren't doing their job. If you had people in finance that were messing up invoices, then you wouldn't have return clients. Sales is not the king of business. And I know that goes against a lot of things that many of you would have heard people say. And yes, you need sales in order to have a business, but you do also need all of those other activities. If you just have a salesperson that doesn't deliver or anything, then in terms of if you just have a business where there's sales and nothing is being delivered, then basically you're just stealing from people. You're just saying, hey, come buy this thing, and then running off with people's money into the night. You need the other departments. Otherwise, the things that people are buying are usually, that's not the kind of business you want to be in. That analogy kind of ran away from me a second now. But anyway, so let's say things are great. And you know things are great. Let's just not have feelings. We know things are great because we've looked at our metrics. We've looked at our KPIs and we've seen how close did we get to the mark? How much did we exceed it by? And it's worth then looking there to get a consensus with the other business leaders to understand why did we succeed? Not just, yay, we succeeded. Oh, fantastic. Let's all sit back, or rather go out and get some ice cream. It's why. And just like if things had gone wrong, we'd be looking at people, process, technology. I would urge you to look at those things again, see what did we do well? Let's make sure that we're going to the people who did exceptional work and telling them that they did exceptional work. Not just, you did great, Paul. Fantastic. Tell them, make sure our managers have the confidence to be able to have one-to-ones with people and say, this particular here was a standout for you, well done. And that helped us do X, Y, Z. There are a lot of managers or businesses that are afraid to do that because they think automatically, oh, well, if I compliment my member of staff, then they're going to ask for a pay rise. They might, and they should. They might, and they should. If a person is doing exceptional work, they should be paid for their service. Just like a business, if a business offers high quality services or products, they should price accordingly. So if you're in fear of having to pay really good people that have really good skills more money because you've highlighted to them that they have really good skills, you've got a problem there. Because then that means that some of the money that you're enjoying in the business as a senior leader, because you'll be paid more bonuses than everybody else, that's coming out of their pocket. Because you haven't done anything spectacularly different, but they did. And that money is theirs. I know it's the common thing now to basically just rip all money from the bottom and reverse gravity to make sure it goes to the top. But that's not what we're about here. And again, like if you were, then I don't know why you'd be listening or watching me, right? We're about equity here. We're about the sport of business. Everybody should be paid appropriately based on the value that they're bringing. And you as a leader, even if you're not doing hands-on work, your value is making sure you remove the obstacles from people so that they can carry on doing what they're doing. That's how you show your value as a leader. And in that way, you own your bonuses. Because one word from you can make fantastic things happen and can make terrible things happen. And that kind of responsibility is why you're paid the big bucks. But if you don't take responsibility, then you don't deserve the big bucks because you're not being a leader. You just have a title. So now that everything is good and we've looked at people and performance and we've looked at what processes worked well, what did we change last year that in the processes or the technology that we believe helped us to get to our results? What changes did we make? How did we learn from those decisions? And that comes again from my project world of being able to do a project review, right? What did we do well? What didn't go so well? What would we do differently if we had to do this again the next time? And I know a lot of these things feel really, really boring and we just want to sit with the excitement and just woohoo and everything's fantastic. But it's really worth doing because this is the kind of information that when things aren't good, we're going to want to go back to it to have it guide us. Because once we're in a position where things aren't so good, there's a lot of panic and a lot of fear that sets in, and people make decisions that aren't necessarily the best ones that they should be making simply because they're scared. Whereas when you're in a positive mindset, you're more likely to be able to look back on things with a more even eye. Yeah, you're positive, so chances are you might put the rose-colored glasses on things. But hey, we want to always get back to the positive mindset. We never want to stay in the negative mindset, right? So we want to go through and make sure we're assessing what actually happened and looking at our metrics and everything. And then we're going to go back to an oldie but a goodie, our maturity model. And briefly for people who are unsure what a maturity model is, it's the model for the business. It's the model for the sales department at the very least. I create the maturity models that I created were mostly for sales departments, and then they fed into the maturity model of a business where let's say you had 5 levels and each level was a year. Most likely the levels aren't a year. Sometimes they're 2 years. It depends on the complexities of the business, but just for simplicity, 5 levels, 1 year each. In the first year, you'd be writing down there where are you right now? People, process, technology, where are you right now? How are things currently happening? And what's good about them or what's bad about them? And then from there, you'll be able to look at all of the other levels. And this takes pencil work, not pen work, because you're going to have to edit things as you go. And then basically looking at those different categories, people, process, technology, or even you can do it by departments. If you're doing it for the whole business, you then go through and say, what would level 2 look like ideally? What would level 3 look like ideally? Then a 4, then 5. And 5 doesn't have to be perfect. It's just at the end of this maturity model, just like how you have levels of maturity for a startup before they get to be a scale up. Depending on how much you're zooming out from it, the startup becomes the scale up, and the scale up is level 2. Do you see what I mean? But within startup, there'll be levels of maturity to be able to get to a scale up, and there'll be levels of maturity before you then classifies as whatever the thing is after that, right? So it's worth going through and creating that for yourself. I do have an example maturity model for sales teams that's a free resource that you can get on salesopseffects.com/library. And it's called Maturity Model. There'll be a number in there somewhere. It's like with having to title these things. But that's there if you want access to it. And I'll see if I can put a link in the show notes. Let me write that down. Maturity Model. Cool, right? So you go back to your maturity model and you see where you are. And if you were sitting on a level 1, then fantastic. You've completed the foundational level. You made the changes that you could make with the resources that you had at the time. And being able to go back and look at this original plan is so very helpful, because that plan was designed from a certain place, and you can look at it now and say, do you know what? Actually, we've done quite a few bits that were sitting inside level 2. We're actually ahead of schedule. That's something else that we can shout and sing about. That's amazing. But also, there were these other things that we forgot about because we were so focused over here. We forgot about the fact that actually some of these processes are a little bit antiquated, and we just asked people to push through. So people performed very well by counterbalancing the fact that there's no hard and fast rules for things. But because we really pushed on being able to have respect and communicate well with each other, people were able to override all the process issues and all of the things that would cause. So that's fantastic. But how about now that we've got the extra money, which will buy us time and resources, how about we now focus on sorting out these processes? Because chances are we're going to be employing some more people, and those people will require onboarding. And rather than us just getting the person who they're going to be sitting next to physically or virtually to train them, which is what happens in a lot of organizations, how about we make things really clear? How about we make things really clear, because it will benefit that new person coming in to have a guideline for how things actually work. And then they'll still be able to ask questions as well. And yes, that guideline might need to be updated roughly once a year. But if it's clear enough, then it shouldn't take that much to update. But yeah, that will have to be somebody's job. Make sure it's somebody's job so that it happens, because this is how a business matures. The businesses, like so many businesses, if not every single last one of them, start out with everything being all over the place, being fuzzy and scatty, and, everybody's doing everything. But you don't have a company as big as like Microsoft, because everybody's all scatty all the time. And I'm aware somebody who's worked for Microsoft is going to come and say to me, oh my gosh, you don't know about Department XYZ. Yeah, but you get what I mean. There has to be a certain level of rigor, a firm skeleton, to be able to keep a business together as it grows, even if you don't intend on becoming a super large business in the future, right? So these things do have to be written down. But one of the things that I want to urge you against doing is getting trigger happy and then buying all the technology, or doing all of your hiring in one go because, oh, we've got so much money. Because that's one of the things that happens as well. Budgets, when things are good, sometimes budgets are kind of taken as a suggestion instead of a reality. They're not taken as seriously as when we don't have the money, right? So then you've got department heads working against each other by saying, well, if I hire all of these people now, then I'll get to have the whole bucket of money. Instead of they just want to go and spend it on tech again. And it's like no one department is more right than the other. But these things can happen even when times are good. It's just like, I'm just going to take this and just going to do it. And then it's a lot harder to fire people than it is to just not renew a subscription on this tech. So therefore, I'm just going to go ahead and do that and let other people deal with it afterwards, right? So we do want to get very clear about what our budget is for spending. And we really want to prioritize, okay, so how do we firm up level 2? Okay. If it's process that we need, do we need to hire in a consultant that can streamline processes and can speak to people in all kinds of different departments? Do we have somebody internally that wouldn't mind being on sabbatical to do that? And we make sure we're paying them appropriately? Or would it actually just be easier to get an outside consultant, make sure they're read in, and then get them to deal with it? If that is the easier version, and obviously do come and give me a call. I'll put the link in the show notes because I do that fractionally. And that's the case. Do you need somebody to advise on technology? Do you need a CRM technician specialist, or do you need someone who understands the full and thorough processes of how everything works and can give you the information that you need in order to go out and make sure you find the right technology? Do you need help hiring? Do you need help refining your KPIs? Because the KPIs that you had for level 1 won't necessarily be the appropriate ones for level 2, because your business is in a different place now. And you want to make sure that your salespeople are forever growing and are forever improving. You don't want to push them too hard, but you do want to give them something to strive for, right? Because chances are you're going to be wanting to give them more money because they're going to be asking to get more money. So then do better quality work. There's only so many hours in a day, so we're not asking people to work flipping 100-hour weeks, but how do we enable our salespeople to do better quality work? How do we enable more progress between the departments? How do we increase the volume, the value, or the velocity, the speed of the sales cycle? Which one do we think that if we pressed on that button would work? Do you have somebody who has a more detailed sales operations mind that's understanding the analytics, specifically sales analytics? Because having somebody who understands general analytics is great. They'll be able to work the numbers and the graphs for you, but their analysis will be through one lens, that of an analysis. It won't necessarily have, the person might not necessarily have sales operations background to understand, okay, yes, these numbers might look better than those numbers, but actually these numbers over here are much more important. They have more leverage and everything else because they're looking at it from a sales operations mindset. Again, if you need somebody to look at your analytics, do come let me know. That is a service that I offer, particularly if you use Salesforce, but other CRMs are perfectly fine as long as you've got the data. The data and the cleanliness of the data is most paramount. But again, my key thing here is congratulations on having a good Q4. Please don't let the joy run to your head. Please use this time. Please use this breathing space, to congratulate everyone, because everyone makes the business work, and to look at your maturity model to say, okay, so this is what we said we were going to do. Does the maturity model need to be updated? We don't want to just go out there and splash the cash in every single direction, because you could very easily bring in too many things and cause problems in your really well-run system, because now there's too many different pieces of technology and now you're causing confusion. So what was great is now not good because leaders didn't take the time to just sit down and steady the ship. The ship did very, very well to get through the storm, but that doesn't mean we have to keep gunning it. It doesn't mean we have to carry on going at the exact same speed, because we don't need to. If we're in smooth waters, let's take this time to rest, to review, so that we can plan for the future, because we all know that it doesn't stay good forever, just like how it doesn't stay bad forever. Right? And if you want to know what to do if things are bad, go and look at the last episode. So thank you for tuning into this episode. If you have any comments and advice for people, good or bad, that have had good or bad Q4s, please do share. You know what it's like when you're in the comment section. People do benefit. I know I benefit from reading other people's experiences as well. So let me know, what was the one thing that you had to focus on that did actually change your business for the better, when you really had to go through the decision to go, oh, we could do this, we could do that. There was 20 things on the list. What was your main focus and how did that go? And as I said, should you require help, direction, prioritization, analysis, I'm your girl. So take a look in the show notes and give me a call, and we will talk about that some other time. But I'll be back next week with some more sales, operations, and optimization goodies. So see you then.